Welcome to the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Fit, the all-in-one AI-powered corporate wellness platform developed by Vantage Circle.
Employee well-being is often seen at the top of the priority list in organizations worldwide. And ever since the COVID-19 pandemic broke out, it has become an essential aspect for employers. When we talk about employee well-being, we talk about the various health aspects of employees, be it mental, physical, financial, spiritual, and so on. In an organization, leaders are responsible for driving positive change and improving the wellness of their workforce. Now, especially after the COVID-19 scenario, leaders have a bigger role to play to ensure that their employees are fit and healthy and protected at all times. Hi, I'm your host Alif Ahmed, and today we have with us Executive Health and Wellness Coach Traci Fisher. Traci graduated from West Point in 1991 and was commissioned in aviation and served as a helicopter pilot for 7 years. After leaving the military, she started her career in the fitness and wellness industry. She created Live Active, a total body workout series with Cleveland Clinic doctors, is a co-author of Lean Body, Smart Life, and creator of the Wellbeingness model. She is a regular contributor to local media, a wellness consultant, motivational speaker, mother of three, and the managing director of 2 health and wellness companies based in Cleveland, Ohio. Traci is currently working on her first book, The Healthy Leader, Self-Leadership for Optimal Health, Energy, and Performance. She combines her wellness expertise with leadership training to help executives optimize their health and energy in service to performance, both personally and professionally. She is passionate about helping leaders achieve their next level of success while simultaneously enjoying the experience of life. Traci has been working with leaders for over 20 years in the health and fitness industry and is absolutely delighted to connect with, learn, and play with all of you. Hi Traci, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me, Alif.
Would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. Well, you did a great job. That was a great, concise introduction. So thank you for that. And I honestly think that the introduction sums it up. I think the one thing I would like to emphasize is that in my background, I was in the military in the United States Army, and my background is very much about science and logistics and making sure that we are following procedures. And so I utilize that science of the body, if you will, along with the newer aspects of well-being. And so I like to combine wellness and well-being, and am passionate about helping people utilize both wellness and well-being. So thank you again for having me.
It is great having you here with us, Traci. So I see that you have been combining wellness and well-being and helping your clients achieve their state of well-being, right? So you call it wellbeingness, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
You call it wellbeingness.
Yes, I do.
Yes. So would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. So I just kind of went into it just a little bit. And I think that the most important thing for leaders and people to understand is that there is a difference between our physical health and energy and our mental and emotional health and energy. And then, Of course, they're totally combined, right? Yeah. So they influence one another. And the reason that I came up with this is because, as I said, I went from being in the military to owning a couple of fitness companies and really focusing in on that physical aspect, that wellness aspect. And of course, it's important, right? We are physical organisms.
Exactly.
So we have to take care of that, right? You know that.
Yeah.
And so the interesting piece for me was that as I was working with leaders and executives and understanding what it is that they need to do to take care of their bodies, a lot of times people just weren't doing it. They weren't following through, or they weren't following through consistently. And so that's when I went back to school and studied the well-being piece, that cognitive piece, and understanding the thoughts and the emotions behind our actions. And so that's the well-being piece. And so I focus on them separately so that we can organize them and create and design programs. But they're obviously, as you know, they're intertwined, thus well-beingness.
Yeah. So Traci, can you tell me how do you work with people?
Yeah, so I work with people individually. I work one-on-one with leaders, and then I also, of course, work with leadership teams. And I just started creating what I call healthy leader immersion cohorts. And I created this program because sometimes people within the same company don't necessarily want to be talking about personal or private information with each other. But then as we spoke earlier, there's such power in being in a group. So I created the Healthy Leader Immersion Program, and we launch it 3 or 4 times a year, and we limit it to 15 people or less, 15 leaders or less across the world. And we focus in on some of the things that we've been talking about, whether it is weight loss or, getting healthier or improving relationships, reducing stress, work-life harmony. And so we actually are going to be launching our September cohort on the 20th. And I would love to extend an invitation to all of your listeners. I created a coupon code, and you go to thewellness.coach, and you can see different ways to work with me. And if people are interested in learning more about it, they can either email me, or they can just sign up and input the word Vantage.
Okay, sure. That would be great. I'd love to attend that, and I'm sure our listeners would love to attend that as well.
Thank you.
Considering the workplace scenario in this COVID situation, most employers have seen that their employees have been affected mentally and physically. Also, work-life balance has been affected. So what are the key areas that you think have been affected the most by the pandemic?
Well, shoot, you just said it. You mentioned mental and physical, and then there's the emotional aspect, right? So all of them, mental, emotional, physical, health, energy, performance. I think that our entire way of being has been affected. Now, of course, different people are affected differently, depending on their circumstances, but I do think that it's affected our whole being, our entire well-beingness.
So as you know, human beings are social creatures, and obviously social interaction is very important. In fact, it is paramount to emotional and mental health. However, the pandemic and the social isolation caused by it has really taken a huge toll on everyone. People cannot even go out to work out or even interact with other people, and this has really taken a toll on their mental and physical health. I personally have experienced a lot of people that have suffered from mental health during the pandemic. So what are your experiences? Would you like to share them?
Yeah. So I think you nailed it, Ali, for sure. The way that I organize this in my mind with that, that very structured background is I think about the environment. And so we have this external environment that has changed dramatically, as you just pointed out. I don't need to articulate that. And then we have our internal environment and how we are relating to that. And so it's almost like the entire world has gone topsy-turvy, and we're constantly trying to balance and create harmony between that external environment and internal environment. And so for me, my experience has been that because the external environment has shifted so quickly and now so consistently, it keeps shifting, even as we hear about the Delta virus, and then the new regulations, and do you wear masks, do you not wear masks, do you get the COVID shot, do you not, it's just constant external change, which, by the way, right, and we had plenty of it before the pandemic, right? So my experience has been is that people are learning how to handle that and deal with that mentally, emotionally, and physically. And this is something that we have faced that again, we've never faced. So it is a challenge on the health, energy, and performance level, as you've said.
Even before the COVID pandemic struck, there were many people that needed external motivation to get started on their fitness journey, to walk, to run, to just get started. So now with the pandemic and the lockdowns, many people are just confined to their homes, and this has really demotivated people from exercising. And also, consequently, this has been creating lots of health issues as well, like obesity, hypertension, and you name it. So how do you think these people can overcome the negative effects of a lockdown on their health?
Yeah, and the answer is, I believe, in the same way, even pre-pandemic and during the pandemic and post-pandemic. And so what that relates back to is what we were talking about before is understanding the well-being aspect and really understanding how our thoughts and emotions impact our actions.
Yeah.
So what I found is that there are certain things that we can all do, and for the most part, it's not total rocket science. We know that we need to eat better, that we need to move our bodies, we need to get enough sleep. And of course, we want to customize that and individualize that for certain people, given their history and illnesses and background. But in general, we know what to do. The question is how do you do it? And so to answer your question, right, is how do people overcome this, lack of motivation?
Yeah, the challenges and everything,
Right. And so that's actually the work that I do, is saying, hey, listen, it's one thing to know the wellness aspect and know how you feel, rest, and move your body and your brain. We have to get that right. We nail that right. We get a wellness protocol going. And now let's talk about when it's time to tie up your sneakers or turn off Netflix, or put down your phone. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How are you able to do that? And so, like, for me, that's the key piece, is understanding that it's not about the physical activity, although that's important. It's about what am I thinking and what am I creating within my own emotions and within my own internal environment that keeps me from doing it.
Yeah. So now that's for the individuals, right? That's just for the employees. So they have to do this to get back on track. So what would leaders do? How would leaders intervene, and get their employees up and running, basically?
Yeah, and I think that the first part of it is kind of a two-part question. And the first part is that they lead themselves, or that they have their own self-leadership, that they understand their own habits and what is going on with them. And really, and again, this is the crux of my work, understanding how our thoughts affect our emotions, affect our actions, and whether that's wellness actions or, are you getting your project done on time? Are you procrastinating? And so for leaders, when you are leading yourself and practicing, daring to practice taking care of yourself, several things happen. One, you get better, right? Yeah. Your performance goes up. You feel better. Your fulfillment is better. So that's just a bonus all by itself. And your life is better. Yeah. And then you start to model for other people what that looks like. That's like you literally are leading yourself, and people get to witness that. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's the first piece, is leaders not just speaking the speak, and saying, oh yeah, you need to take care of yourselves, but actually doing it themselves. And then the second piece is listening to what is real for their employees and what is going on. And I have a process, I call it the 3D process. And the first part of that is the discovery. Okay. And that's really asking, hey, what's going on for you? What is true for you? And that's, literally having a listening ear, and whether it's a survey or, having a Zoom cup of coffee call, or just really being aware, because for some people, they're not worried about moving more. They're worried about their stress levels because their parent has COVID, right? So if we don't, or finances, so we don't know what's causing it, and we're not, and the leaders aren't really listening, then we can't design a program around it. So that's kind of that to me, that's the very first part for leaders, is self-leadership, and then discovering what's true for the individuals in their organization, and really just listening, discovering what's going on.
Yes, you touched upon a really important aspect of well-being. I personally think that social interaction is very important, especially when working from home. Employees need to be asked questions like, how are you? Are you doing fine? Is your family fine? And so on. Leaders should ask these questions to their employees so that they know that they are cared for, and that there is someone listening to them.
Oh, completely. Yeah. And then doing that again and again and again. Like, how are you today?
Exactly.
What's going on, asking about family. And it's interesting because I just gave a seminar on communication, and the more we get to know each other, you'll see that I love acronyms. I love the number 3, and keeping all of this information really simple. And so when we were talking about the creating communication, which is what we're talking about here, there are 3 aspects. I call them the 3 R's. Okay. And the first one is to receive. Really receive information, because so many of us are like, okay, let's go on the Zoom call. Let's get this done. Let's go. We got time. Yeah. And to literally take a moment to receive the people as a human being, and then to reflect back, whatever they're saying. And then the third R is to then make your request. All right, let's get started with the meeting. And so that again is just kind of slowing down and being present and connecting, as you referenced, Alif, the connection that can be created even in this environment. Yeah.
So you talked about 3 R's, right? So that was just one, receive. So what are
So I kind of blew through them. So the first one is to receive the people. And there's this really cool, that was one of them. I just want to say that there's this great South African greeting. It's Sawubona, which is I see you, I receive you.
Right.
And so people just want to be seen. So that's a great thing. And then the second R that I kind of blew through was reflect, is to reflect back. Mm-hmm. This is what I hear you saying. This has been an issue for you. I hear that you were overworked, and when we do that, and this goes back to that social aspect, is we as leaders are creating a safe environment. When someone can be seen and they can speak and you receive it and you reflect it, that is culture building right there. Mm-hmm. Before you ever make your third R, which is the request, to request. Okay, let's, so those are the 3 R's: to receive, reflect, and request when you're communicating.
These things are really important, and these need to become a part and parcel of the organizational model post-pandemic. Organizational leaders need to be aware of their employees, how they are performing, not just performing, if they are healthy, if they are suffering from any issue or just any problem, basically. So these things need to be taken care of. Also, there are many people that do not prefer opening up to people. They might be introverted or whatever may be the case. They need to be allowed to speak up, just so that they know that there is someone who's listening to them, and they are able to share those things with them. So how do you think, or what would you suggest employers to do or leaders to do, just to get these employees to just to tap into these employees' minds and get them to communicate and collaborate with everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great question and a fabulous point. And so the first part of that is what we've already said, is to keep asking, to keep connecting, to keep reaching out. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I was just talking with my marketing team, and they were talking about how many times you have to actually have a touch point with somebody before they start listening to you, right?
Yeah.
Before they believe you, before they know, like, and trust you, especially if we're talking about someone who is in an employee-employer relationship, right? They want to keep their job. There's some safety there. So I would say keep connecting and to keep reaching out for sure. And then in that 3D model, the second step is to design. And so it's different for different organizations. Maybe you are designing a walking program, or maybe you're designing, a Friday night group where people can get together, or you're designing a program where they can go to the gym, or designing in different ways that match where people are. And I kind of want to just underline that in red pen, is that in general, I think many corporations and well-meaning are creating and designing programs that are just the walking program, or lose the weight. That's a big one, right? So many people are tired of being told that they need to lose the weight, or make sure that you do this or do that or do that. And it's very directed versus, or here's a multitude of ways that we are going to connect with you. Not get you to change, but get us to connect with you. Because when we do that, people naturally want to grow. They want to be better. They want to feel better, but they certainly do not want to be what I call should on. Like, you should be doing this. You should make sure that you're, so just being able to design different opportunities for people to show up wherever they are, and in ways that are reflective and useful for them.
Yeah. We can put pen to paper that once people start going back to offices, everything will not be the same as it was before. Many employees will be working from home, and many will be present in the office as well. But consider a scenario where in an organization there is a wellness challenge running, or a wellness program going on, wherein half of the workforce, they are working from home, and half are present in the office, and they are participating in the same wellness challenge.
Right. So I think that's a great question too. That circles back to the design piece, and that when you are designing a walkathon and you know that half of your employees are, going to be at home, is that you can offer a treadmill option, or walk around the block option, or jumping jack option if you want to participate in that. So that's one thing, is making that particular challenge or event or program accessible to everybody in whatever environment that they find themselves in. And I would say that is true, pre-COVID and post-COVID, is that we want to create programs that are welcoming to everybody, regardless of their personal, health and wellness, and also their personal environment. So again, it's that leader being aware of what limitations exist, whether it's physical illness or environmental, and making sure that they are creating programs around including everybody if they want to be included. I would say that for sure. And then also secondarily, offering people alternatives to do their own thing, to come up with this kind of open curriculum, if you will. What would you like to do? And what would be supportive of you? For somebody, it might be, hey, listen, what I want to do is spend 15 minutes a day with my child and without me or them looking at their phone. Or let's do a challenge where, we have game night every Thursday night, for different people, it's different. And wellness and well-being and well-beingness are, I believe, are manifested differently in different people.
And it has to be customized accordingly, right?
Yeah, right.
Design. The word is designed, I suppose. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. That's it. Design.
So considering whatever you said, leaders have to be energized and focused to motivate their employees to do the same. And also leaders need to initiate the change in themselves to inspire the change in their employees. In such a case, how do you think employers can motivate their employees to just give it their all?
It's the most important, I think. It is the most important. We talked about that kind of at the beginning in terms of leaders modeling and being who they want their employees to be, and to literally show. And we know that you referenced the social aspect, which I wanted to touch on very quickly. Like that has been obviously, very much affected. And there's a particular theory, I can't remember who created this, but it's called, you can Google it, it's self-determination theory. And it's the idea of what actually motivates people to do what it is that they say that they want to do. And there are three aspects of it. And one of them is confidence, and that you are doing the right thing, that you are, whether it's your diet program or your movement or how you're communicating with your children, that you feel confident that you have the right plan. So that's the first aspect, that feeling confident about what you're doing. The second one is autonomy, which we've already hit on a little bit, is letting people have control over their own destination and how they are involved, and not shoulding and telling people what they should be doing, but letting them choose for themselves. And then that third aspect is community and connection and being connected with other people. So all three of those aspects really do help understand motivation. And so when a leader is leading and modeling, we're hitting all three of those, right? They're saying, oh, he's doing it or she's doing it. And okay, so I have confidence in that. And they are creating and designing this program where I can figure out what I'm going to do on my own, that has the autonomy. And then, oh, by the way, when people are feeling fulfilled and taking care of themselves, other people want to be around them. So we're creating this connection, and hey, what's going on? What are you doing? And I want to be with you.
Talking about fulfillment, let us assume that employees have achieved their wellness and fitness goals. In such a case, how important do you think it is for employers to recognize their efforts?
Well, I think that speaks right to that third wheel of the self-determination theory, which is autonomy and connection. I think it's extremely important, and also goes back to that second R in the communication of reflecting and being seen. Sao bono, we want to be seen. And I think that that's one of the main reasons that this pandemic has had such a mental and emotional effect on us, is that we are not connected as we are meant to be as human beings. So for sure, Ali, if you hit it, it's extremely important to keep and maintain that connection and that trust. It's everything, I believe.
Mm-hmm. In terms of yearly appraisals and reviews, do you think that wellness goals and achievements can play a determining role to assess how an individual has performed over the year?
Yeah. So this is how I'm going to answer your question. I have another acronym for you. So we've talked around all of these topics, and so when I work with somebody, we talk about mental, emotional, and physical health, energy, and performance. So I'll say that again: mental, emotional, physical, health, energy, and performance. And so when you do a 3x3, there's 9 areas there, right? So there's mental, emotional, and physical health, mental, emotional, and physical energy, mental, emotional, and physical performance.
Okay.
So mental performance, and the performance piece is where we enter into relationships with other people, because nobody can know what you are feeling mentally, emotionally, right?
Yeah.
They can only ascertain how you are performing. And so if your mental performance is that you have strong cognitive abilities and you can get your work done on time. And so, of course, your mental performance is going to impact your work performance. And it's the same for your emotional, quote unquote, performance. Are you flying off the handle? Are you saying derogatory things to customers? Or are you the calm in the storm? That's going to affect your work performance. And then for physical performance, depending on what it is that you need to do for your job, depending on if you need to, if you work in a factory and you need to be able to do things quickly, or if you're sitting behind a desk, that's going to impact your performance as well. So for me, my belief is that you set certain parameters as a leader and say, these are the performance goals that will determine how well you are doing. And are you meeting them or are you not meeting them? And then that makes it very clean and clear and lets people take care of themselves and while they work to a certain level of performance.
Interesting. So I have really liked that this scientific approach that you take towards wellness, right? So, so this is something that really employers and leaders, they should keep in mind, like a scientific approach to employee wellness. So that is something that they might find it very useful. What do you think?
Absolutely. The scientific approach is that wellness side, and what we were just talking about in terms of measuring performance. So it is or it isn't. It's kind of like what I think of as a math problem. You either meet the standard or you don't meet the standard. Mm-hmm. And we can apply that also personally, whether we're talking about weight loss or reducing blood pressure, or I like to use a scale for stress. I'm at a stress level of 9. I'd like to bring it down to a 2. And so we use this kind of scientific approach so that we can separate ourselves from the results, because there's so much information about how we could be taking care of ourselves and what we should or shouldn't be doing, that it's easy to get lost in that. It's easy to get lost in the drama aspect of it. And so when you're able to separate those out and include separating out not just the wellness of your body and your performance, but also your well-being, when you're able to separate those out, then you can see them more clearly. And as I said at the beginning, they're of course all totally interconnected, and performance and the way that people speak to you at work is going to have an impact. But when you look at it a little bit more scientifically, as you say, you can separate out and really have powerful control over yourself and your own leadership.
So Traci, I'm sure that you have achieved amazing results over the years with your Wellbeingness model. Is there any particular insight that you'd like to share with us that shows us how you help your clients achieve their wellness goals and how they pass it on to their workforce as well?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So I will start off by telling you that I have a very specific process that I use. There's 6 steps to being a healthy leader, and it is organized around a very specific model where people can, as I was just reflecting, take the stories of their lives and what is going on, or the story of what is going on around work, and separate it out into 6 specific segments so that you can back up and see what is going on in a much more objective way. And so when leaders are able to do that, and I will give you an example, and there's so many, this is a generic example that I've witnessed many times, is that let's say, for example, a leader is over drinking and they're successful in every other area, but they just, are waking up tired and lethargic, and they know that it is having an impact on their performance. Nobody else really knows, but they know, and they don't feel good physically, and they don't feel fulfilled in their lives. So as we go through this model, part of it is unpacking that well-being piece. And what are you thinking and what emotions are going on at the point when you have one too many, or you're drinking when you said you weren't going to drink? Mm-hmm. And what we discover with many leaders is there is this immunity to change. There are these thoughts or belief patterns that I work hard, I'm going to play hard. Or I deserve this, or people work themselves to the bone and put themselves last, and so that drink is a reward for it. And so when we start to and by the way, a lot of those belief systems have got them to where they are. Right? They work really hard, and so unpacking those in a way that helps people to say, oh, you know what, the reason that I am over drinking is because of the way that I am working, or the reason that I am, yelling at my colleagues is because I am, not taking care of myself. When people start to unpack all of that, then they can begin to change it. And so that's because I use that model. That's basically what happens over and over and over again, where people are like, oh, this is why I'm doing this behavior. This is why I'm not following through. Yeah.
So that's something, people actually, these people, when, for example, you told that they take this reward for example, they work too hard. They think that they want to take a drink just to reward themselves. So this actually stems from their brain actually. So they release dopamine, the feel good. So it is coming to think of it, it's so scientifically entwined, all these things. So that is why when the problem is basically scientific, the solution also has to be scientific, right?
Right. Yeah, you just nailed it. And that's it. Because when we overeat, overdrink, overshop, whatever the thing is that we feel like we are overdoing, and that is actually key. I just want to pause here for a second, is that people get to decide what overing is for themselves, if they feel like they're drinking. So, and that's another piece of that autonomy, is that you get to decide for yourself what is too much for you. And of course, that's what they're doing. They're looking for that dopamine rush. They're looking to feel good, right? You nailed it. Getting rid of the anxiety and just kind of calming the mind down. Yeah. It's totally understandable, right? We understand why people would want to do that.
So Traci, on an ending note, what tip would you like to share with our listeners, especially the leaders, on how they can take employee health and revolutionize it post-pandemic?
I think that they can take it in their hands right now, and really focus in on their own leadership and really taking care of themselves, of their brains and their bodies, so that they can show up with their optimal health, energy, and performance. Because when I'm speaking to the choir here with you, Alif, when you are showing up and you feel good, you be good, right? You be engaged. And that is really what, and when we are presenting like that with other people, that's when they work hard for you. Right? That's when they show up. That's when they do their best. And so I do, that's the work that I do. I honestly believe that self-leadership is the first step to leadership. And then everything else flows from there in that 3D process, for sure.
Exactly. So Traci, it was an honor having you with us on this show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I personally learned a lot of things. I'm sure our listeners would agree with me. So we'd love to have you back with us sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Thanks a lot. And have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Take care, Ali.
Thanks for listening to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.